Hello, my fellow webheads. It's your friendly neighborhood Jerry Rasco, and we are here today to talk about the Amazing Spider-Man number 76. This is an awesome issue. Going through and making my notes on this one, I just kept coming up with over and over, so good, so cool, great image, great shot. So there's a lot of really, really good stuff to go over with you in this issue today. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, I always want to take this moment to say thanks to everybody that's been supporting the channel. Every click of that subscribe button helps me out, and I really do appreciate it. So thank you for everybody that has subscribed, and more importantly, thank you to everybody that shared out the channel as well. If you are a fan, if you're following along, and you know somebody that you think likes comics, likes art, this is, in my personal opinion, an educational video series where we really talk about the art of creating comics and telling stories in a visual medium. So if you know somebody who's interested in that, please share out the channel to them, let them get a look so they can check it out for themselves. Of course, if you have not subscribed and you're new, here's why you'd want to do it. We are pushing towards 1,000 subscribers. That's the goal, and we're making great strides in getting there. When we reach 1,000 subscribers, I will be picking 6 random subscribers, and each one of those folks will win one piece of a one-of-a-kind artwork celebrating one of the review series that we have here on the channel. So, if you have not seen it before, let me show you real quick what you could potentially win just by clicking that subscribe button. So, of course, we start out with The Amazing Spider-Man. We have the X-Men, we have the Incredible Hulk, we have the Avengers, we have Captain America, the newest launch on the series, and we also have the Fantastic Four, which will be coming out very soon. So you could win one of these pieces of artwork if your name is picked when we reach that 1,000 subscribers. So make sure you're a subscriber before then. And of course, the faster we get to 1,000 subscribers, the faster I can get this free art out into everybody's hands. That's right. It's 100% free. No purchase necessary. Even the shipping will be free. So go ahead, click that subscribe button and join us. In the meantime, this is an awesome, awesome comic. I don't want to waste any more time. Let's get over and check it out. So here is the cover to Amazing Spider-Man number 76, and yes, it is the Lizard. We had that tease at the end of the last issue, and now we are going to see Spidey fight the Lizard again. I like it. I am a big Lizard fan. I think the Lizard, in terms of a villain, is sometimes underrated. You know, when people talk about Spidey's iconic rogues gallery, of course, you have characters like the Green Goblin and Venom and the Vulture and Doc Ock. I think sometimes the Lizard is a little underappreciated. So maybe it's because he's not a full-time villain, right? Obviously, it's Dr. Kirk Connors, and he changes into the Lizard. So I don't know if that's the case, but I love it. And this is a very good cover. In fact, the first thing that dawned on me when I saw this was it reminded me of the first appearance of the Lizard. So I went and pulled that. Let me show you right here. Here is the first appearance of the Lizard in Amazing Spider-Man number 6. And so you have kind of that similar feeling, right, of the characters falling down, this tunnel, the Lizard hanging on the wall, head down, and attacking Spidey. So to me, it really had a reminiscent feel of number 6. So sort of a little homage, if you will. So here's again, the cover to 76. Again, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Let me know, do you think this was an homage to that original, or is it different enough? Either way, this is a great cover. The down shot is excellent. It really helps to emphasize the danger, right? If Spidey falls, that's a long way to go. You have the black or very, very dark area behind the Lizard to pop that bright green and purple, as well as Spidey. So the more neutral tones of the background work great to isolate those figures, and it's terrific. And again, we talk about this a lot, and there's John Romita, as he does these covers, does a really good job of moving the reader's eyes through it. So no matter what attracts your attention first, it could be the title, the Amazing Spider-Man logo at the top. If that's the case, the tail slightly overlaps, so then your eye is going to follow that tail down to the bright white of the Lizard's coat into the punch on Spidey all the way down to the ground. So good composition. Or it might be maybe your eye picks up the bright windows. If so, again, you follow the tail all the way through. Even if your eye picks up the white coat of the lizard, you've got that circular punching motion and the straight line to Spidey. So no matter where your eye lands first, you are moved through the image very, very well. So that's a great job there. As we always talk about at this point in the videos, this is a scanned PDF copy of the original comic. I do not own Amazing Spider-Man number 676 in person. I would love to. However, those things tend to get expensive, and Marvel was kind enough to take all of these old issues, scan them onto CD-ROMs or DVD-ROMs, and allow us to view them here on our computer. But it is the original comic. This is not a reprint or anything like that. So this is as close to we get of seeing the original, which came out in 1969. So awesome way to view these old comics. I absolutely love it. We'll talk about the creative team real quick. We have Stan Lee, and then we have a bit of a change on pencils. We've seen John Buscema before. We've talked about him a little bit. John Buscema has a incredible, iconic resume with Marvel Comics, obviously. There was a point he was simply referred to as Big John, and that's saying something because there's a lot of Johns over the years, right? It's a pretty common name. So to simply be known as Big John tells you what you need to know about the guy. Again, iconic, a Mount Rushmore entry into the Silver Age of comic artists. Still the same inker, though, Jim Mooney. So we still have the same kind of line work that we've been seeing before in terms of the inks, but now we've got a little bit of a different style in terms of some of the page composition, and I love it. John Buscema is phenomenal. There's a reason that he was, picked to be the artist to do all the work in the how to draw comics the Marvel way. In fact, I have a copy, right here down below my desk. Here you go. You cannot go wrong with this book. John Buscema right here, and it tells you, right, this is the artist behind Silver Surfer, Conan the Barbarian, Thor, Spider-Man, etc. So, hey, here's a guy that's, he's got the resume. If you want to study somebody and see how to draw comics, John Buscema is definitely somebody you should look at. So, real quick story recap. Finally, we're out of the tablet, the ancient mysterious tablet and Silvermane and all that kind of stuff. This is the results of that. So Dr. Kirk Connors, aka the Lizard, was kidnapped and used to solve the mystery of the tablet and the stress and the strain on him as his family was kidnapped and held hostage has caused him to revert back to the Lizard, and now he is fully Lizard. He does not recall being Kirk Connors. There is no humanity in him at this moment. It is Lizard, and he wants to destroy the humans and specifically Spider-Man. So that's what brings us here. Great splash page to start things out. I love a splash page where we jump right into the story. That's awesome. And this one is phenomenal. I mean, literally, you can't get better than somebody smashing through a wall coming right at the reader. Great foreshortening. Foreshortening is when you have something that is closer to the camera, like my hand, and it is covering up my arm. You can't see my arm, but my arm is behind it. So my hand is going to be quite large, and then you're going to have the rest of my body behind it. That's what you're seeing here with the Lizard as well. You've got this great large hand as it's coming towards us, covering the wrist, covering part of the forearm, the bicep, etc. So that the images, or the how do I put this? The objects in the foreground are covering up the middle ground objects because of their proximity to the viewer or the camera. So great job there. The other thing I really like, this is a big deal too. I talk about it anytime you have your character break through something, a window, a wall, a door, whatever it is. Some of that debris needs to be in front of them so that they're smashing through it and it's moving forward with them. And then we have that here. So that's phenomenal. And then the last thing there's two things I'll talk about. One is all the texture. So the Lizard himself has a unique texture, and it's done really, really well. Lots of little hatching, great use of the shadow to emphasize that texture. See the cross hatching on the hands, but it's not just pure lines. There's a little shadow underneath because they're raised bumps. That's a attention to detail. It takes a lot of work to do it, but that is really well done. And then, of course, excuse me, you also have the texture of the rock, which is inked differently, which I really appreciate. You have different textures for different things. The lab coat is a different material than the lizard skin, and is a different material than the rocks, and we need to make sure that they are rendered separately. So all these, all the line work, all the texture, really, really great stuff. And then the last thing I'll talk about is this super big, thick contour line. That is the outside outline of your figure or object. The big texture, or the big thick contour around the hand, as it's so much closer to us, is excellent. That's a really nice inking job there. The only thing I would say is that you need maybe a little bit of an in-between. These rock bricks or whatever they are being closer to us than the lizard could have a little bit of a thicker outline around some of them. Nitpicking. This is almost 100% perfect. This is a 99 out of 100 in terms of splash page. Oops. And then we get into the lizard kind of doing a little soliloquy about how he got beat last time and he won't get beat this time and what his plans are. Again, awesome storytelling. Big panels, even though we're still in a grid, it's a 4-panel grid instead of your old school 6 to 9 panel grid. So we get nice, the ability to flesh out the background, the environment, what's going on, without being constrained to a panel about half the size, right? So that's great. Awesome poses in each one, and the camera moving around. So sometimes we're looking at the lizard, we get a close-up, we have a mid shot, we're slightly above looking down. Now we're definitely way above in a great down shot as he's scaling the walls. Now we're a little bit low in this sort of power pose. That is so cool. And then as he remembers his last defeat at Spider-Man's hands back in Spider-Man number 45. So 45. It's been a long time. It's been 31 issues since we've seen the lizard. So it's a great return of the lizard. And we have this slightly low angle in panel 4 on the right-hand page to look up at Spidey, which makes him look even more heroic, which is awesome. So overall, this whole thing is really, really good. I liken this now. Again, this is 1969, so we're still technically in the silver age of Marvel Comics. We talk about the 90s comics, which was a big, big deal. Image Comics, and the idea that the art of comics really took an extreme leap into what was happening next in terms of page composition and splash pages and layouts. And I don't remember who it was that said it, but there was a quote that I heard from one of the original Image artists, so take your pick. But the idea was that if you treat every panel like it is a splash page, you're going to do well. And that idea, I think, is kind of showing here. That was not new in the 90s. I mean, if you look at any one of these panels, if you took them separately, blew them up, a lot of these could be sort of cover pieces. This one here, I mean, the lizard crouched down, Spidey's face behind him, the shadows, the Dutch angle. I mean, you blew that up into a full cover size. That's an awesome cover. The lizard crawling up the wall here. Again, you blow this up, make it full size cover, would be awesome. Even the one of Spidey beating the lizard in that low shot, looking up at him, the arm strapped down because he had an injured shoulder at the time. Again, so good. It would be an excellent cover. So something to just think about. There's a lot of times panels can be sort of throwaway in the middle of your entire visual storytelling. But if you try to, as much as you can, treat every panel like it's its own splash page or cover, again, you're going to do very well. And then we cut over here to the end, and kind of as the sun apparently is rising. And I like the color being dropped out here. I don't need the bright colored lizard. Again, I think it sort of shows, because throughout here it's dark, it's nighttime. I think the idea is the sun is coming up, so there's sort of that magic time hour where everything is sort of goldy and sort of, not dark, not light. So I like it. And then it still works to have the neutral tone of the lizard. It's clear what the figure is, and then you drop it out in front of the white cityscape. I think that works terrific. So again, great stuff there. I talk about transitions a lot. This comic does have pretty good transitions in it from the most part, and that means from scene to scene, there's a thread, there's something that ties it together, so it's not just an awkward change. This one's tenuous. The lizard is talking about Spidey. He's talking about what he's going to do. He's going to kill him. He won't trick him again. And now we cut to Spidey. So, not terrible. There are a couple other ways that could be done, but overall, again, not super terrible. And so these are Billy and Martha Connors, Dr. Connor's wife and son, and he rescued them from the mafia who had kidnapped him, and he's got them, it looks like probably tucked away at a hotel where the lizard can't find them. So they know Doc Connors is the lizard. Billy even knows. And so here Spidey promises he's going to rescue him, and he'll bring him back safe and sorry. He won't hurt him, because that's obviously her concern. Again, great stuff here. Awesome panels. I said 3 and 4 are terrific. This swinging pose here is so nice. With the hand up, the head down, the other arm swung backwards. I mean, that's a great pose. It's really, really good. And then this one here, as he's swinging, just barely, the foot breaks a little bit. Talk about breaking the panel borders. You can do it. It's not a problem to break that panel border, but it has to be used sparingly and judiciously, meaning you don't just break the panel because somebody is standing there, like in the next page on the phone. You do it because Spidey is swinging through space, and we want to show that motion, that he's going so fast and so strong to the right that he's breaking out of the panel. And that's a time when you would use that technique. And it takes our eye right to the next page. So great stuff there. Again, just awesome stuff. The poses are so good. This turn, it's surprisingly hard because it's not where Martha's looking out the window. It's a profile with a slight turn away. It's a lot harder than you think to pull that off and get that angle of the jaw right and stuff. That's really nice work. Peter here just kind of wraps up a couple loose ends in terms of what's going on in Peter Parker's life. Aunt May is down in Florida recuperating from all of her various medical issues. So he gives her a call. He sees Harry Osborn and sort of patches things up a little bit just by, noticing that Harry's grown this crazy mustache. And we do get a hint that Harry is apparently dating Mary Jane, because he talks about Mary Jane. And it's something I had noted, and I forgot to mention 2 or 3 issues ago, is it's been a long time since we've seen Mary Jane as a supporting character. So that really tells us at this point, I think Stan Lee, I don't know how much he was including, regular artist John Romita on the plots and stuff, but it just kind of does tell you that Stan was really locked in on the Peter Parker Gwen Stacy romance. Mary Jane, even though she was in the mix for a while, has really faded out of the picture. So interesting, right? Because I think today, it's been so long, when you think Spider-Man, you immediately go to Peter and Mary Jane. You don't even think about, Gwen Stacy or Betty Brant or any of the other characters that Peter's been involved with. You immediately go to Mary Jane, but you can see it's a long time, and that's not really happening. So there's a whole history there without Mary Jane. Last thing I'll note here on this page, I thought this was a nice nod that he's passing by a newsstand, and this guy's putting out comics, and he's specifically putting out the Silver Surfer because John Buscema was the artist of the Silver Surfer. So Silver Surfer came out in 1968, and that was his book. And yeah, so nice little nod here to his work on Silver Surfer. So nice Easter egg. We cut to Peter visiting Gwen. So again, wrapping up some of the personal life stuff that had been put on the back burner quite a bit while he was dealing with all the stuff with first the Kingpin and then Silvermane and all that. This is on a page turn, so I appreciate that. It's a little bit sudden. I would have liked to see maybe an establishing shot of, outside Gwen Stacy's house with maybe a couple of these word balloons coming out through the door, through the window kind of thing, and then cut to inside. That would help us to understand where he is. They talk about it right here very briefly in the narration. Comics are a show, don't tell medium, so I'd much rather have them tell or show me that he is at Gwen Stacy's house. But that's fine. Very nice. One of the things to note, her large eyes. There are sort of a couple trains of thought. Is that the word? Trains of thought. There's a couple thought processes behind your female figures and their eyes. When you have a character like a Gwen Stacy who is supposed to be beautiful, innocent, virtuous, lovely girl, you would often give them larger eyes. It brings on that sense of innocence, and it's because the psychology of it resorts, and this sounds a little weird, I get it, children have large eyes. So having large eyes is just something that we as human beings tie in with, this kind of person. When you have a femme fatale, a character that's a little more risky. We haven't seen her yet. But if there's a character called the Black Cat. Peter gets involved with her later. There are characters like the Black Widow, or I'm trying to think of other, like for G.I. Joe. If you're familiar with G.I. Joe, there's a character called the Baroness, who's a Cobra agent, a bad guy. You would draw them with their eyes not as wide, heavy lidded, heavier makeup. It's just a subtle thing to do in terms of your female figures and their faces. But here, the big eyes on Gwen are perfect. They look great. And the two of them kind of work things out. She knows he has a secret. He admits kind of to the fact that he has a secret, but he can't tell her yet. It is not another girl. There's no other girl. So the two of them are like, hey, you just need a little time. We'll work this out. And everybody is kind of on board. So then we cut here in the next room to people talking about Spider-Man. And it's Joe Robertson from the Bugle and Captain Stacy himself. Of course, this is his house. But I don't understand why he's in silhouette like this. It's not a secret that it's Captain Stacy. Again, it's his house. And he's talking to Joe Robertson. I don't know why there would be a problem. Both men are pipe smokers. It's not a big secret. But that's fine. So they're talking about how they wish they could figure out who Spidey was. And not so much like they want to out him, but more, hey, this might really help the guy out. Maybe the world would trust him a little more. But of course, we know Peter keeps his identity secret to protect the people around him, including the 4 people in this room, or 3 people in this room. So there we go. They kind of mention it. And Pete's like, yeah. And it's a nice little bit of business there. So when I say business, it's like the little extra. So they're telling him like, hey, next time come by when you're not on a date, you're not going out, come by. I want to talk to you about Spider-Man's identity, because they know as Spidey's official photographer, Peter might have the most insights. And he's doing this pulling on the collar like, yeah, sure. That's the business. That's what I'm talking about. You could just draw his face and the eyes and the expression. That little bit of tugging on the collar, like a little tell, is really nice. That's a subtle, nice bit of storytelling there. So he gets the word. Here's the news bulletin on the radio. The lizard is out. He's been spotted, and off he goes. It notes that there's a trail of destruction following the lizard. 2 things here. One, this panel with the car and the smashed fire hydrant in the water doesn't work great for me. I think the problem is the water doesn't necessarily work as water. It almost looks more like a motion blur, like the same kind of thing you would have trailing Spidey here as he's swinging. And because it doesn't have round splash kind of where it's hitting. That's my 2 cents to it. I think it should be more splashy if it's supposed to be the water. And then the other part that doesn't work is this nebulous void. There's just this orange void of a background. And I get it. There's a lot going on here. There's not a lot of room, but it would be pretty easy to draw another car, maybe the line of the curb, and then just, or sidewalk or something. Otherwise the lizard just sort of floating in space. So is he jumping? Is he walking? What's going on? It's kind of weird. And again, not my favorite. That's where, again, if you follow that mantra of treat every panel like a splash page, this one needs a little more attention. Oh, and then one more thing I want to point out here, which I really do like, which we don't see a super ton, and that is this nice little halo here. So I've mentioned it before. It's not as consistent as I would do, but so what happens is you have your character Spidey. He's got this very thick contour line around him again because he's so close to us, which is excellent. That's good inking. And then you have these other black areas and black lines behind him. These are windows of some kind of building. Now, if you bring that down and it touches the black line, it gets rid of, they blend together and it gets rid of the contour line around Spidey, and it just becomes thick line to red. So what you do is you leave this little gap between them and you have the halo. Where I say it's not consistent, I would have continued the halo and marked out this little bit of line, any black line that's touching Spidey and touching this contour line around the outside of the arm, I would halo it out, not just the large black areas. That's, again, just my 2 cents on how I would do it, but I do like the nice thick inking there. So he's on the trail of the lizard trying to swing around, find out what's going on, and boom, we get the attack. So good stuff. It's very nice. You've got this great close-up of his hand as the webbing's getting cut. That is really nice there. Good swinging through the city. This panel 3 is a little bit dull for me. It doesn't work great. Looking for my notes here. Oh yeah, this is what I would call like one of the first, in my notes I put, this is one of the first meh panels. And again, part of it ties into the background. Yes, the lizard is on a building roof ledge. That's great. There's some building behind, building below, but this nebulous orange void in the background doesn't work for me. It's like the world stops behind the edge of this building right here. Like what's back there? Then you also happen to have the lizard in a profile shot, which is never the most exciting, combined with Spidey in a sort of flat. If you took that form and flipped it over and put him on the ground, it would look like he's, standing, leaning, but it doesn't look like a overly active falling kind of pose. Especially compared to some of the other ones we've seen here. I mean, just the one above of him swinging, his body is twisted, his limbs are bent more. Here he's very straight. So this one is a little more meh, not the strongest. Then we have other great stuff, great down shots. Whenever you're dealing with something like this where the characters are way up high and there's a threat of them falling, having those images be really tied to the perspective, either like this one here on the left looking up the building or then cutting and looking down the buildings. These are really important to help emphasize that height and the danger. And so you want to make sure your perspective is right. So things are going towards a vanishing point. So all those lines are all going in the same direction, whether it's the brickwork, the windows, etc. And this is all done very, very well. So this is great stuff. I love the swinging. I really like this pose as he swings up and over the top of the roof, just sort of barely getting over that top. It reminds me of a high jumper or a pole vaulter, right? Really nice form there as he's coming over the top and lengthening out that body. Really good work. That's a great pose. And then here, this is, again, we're just getting into some awesome stuff. And I warned you at the beginning. I kept saying, this is so good. This is awesome. This pose is great. This page is great. This stuff is so cool. And really, really nice work here on using foreground elements. So in this case, Spidey's hand and then the lizard to frame what's going on behind it. So Spidey's hand is here, puts us in a POV of we're Spidey, and that lizard pops up over the edge of the roof like that. That's awesome. So that's a really, really nice element. And then grabbing him with the one hand and slamming him into the wall and it barely doing anything. And Lizard getting up and coming right back to the fight is great. And we see Spidey in this very cool crouched pose, looking past the Lizard to him. So that stuff is all really, really cool. It's great. I like it a lot. Same thing here. Good Dutch angle. Dutch angle, you take your image, should be 90 degrees, right? This rooftop is flat and you tilt it a little bit. And again, creates action, creates drama, creates energy. Lizard leaps. This pose of Spidey is so cool. I'm going to zoom in. Where he's so low to the ground, but actually not touching the ground. That is super cool. Great use of the shadow underneath him as he's ducking through. Again, just shows the energy. The lizard fully stretched out. All that energy, all that power and motion going right by Spidey's head. That is phenomenal. Now, this one is a little confusing in what's called the 180 rule. So the 180 rule is if I'm looking at Spidey's head like this, and imagine a full circle around him is 360 degrees. So straight through in panel 2, as I'm looking straight through his head, that would cut that circle in half. So half a circle is 180. The other half of the circle is 180. And that is as far as I can go. I can pick a side and I can go 180 degrees this way and I'm good. I can go 180 degrees this way and I'm good. What I can't do is flip around and be behind Spidey because now the camera has flipped and everybody's moving in the wrong direction and it becomes confusing to the reader. I would argue a little bit that that's kind of what's happening here. So as the lizard is moving from left to right, Spidey raises up to, I guess, either help fling him over or grab his tail. But then the lizard's tail wraps around his head and pulls him backwards. So it's not quite the 180. If we're assuming that the lizard is still moving from left to right, that this would be sort of 90 degrees. Like all of a sudden we went from right here where we're looking at Spider-Man in panel 2, and by the end of the panel, we're 90 degrees and we're facing the way the lizard was leaping because now we see his face coming directly at us. It's a little awkward in terms of that spatial choreography, but it's not that bad. The figures are in the air, tail whipping around, flipping, jumping, all that stuff. I'm okay with it. It's just one of those things. It's a good time to talk about the 180 rule because it's a good example. And then the lizard's not done. He's got him in that tail, which is a huge advantage and really smashing Spidey down. And he's going to fling him off into space, hopefully cast him off the roof down to his death. That's what the lizard wants. But these are all, again, terrific panels, really good stuff. This one here, for sure, 100%, breaks the 180 rule. And that is, here we are on the side. We are looking at the lizard. This is his right shoulder. So we can go almost all the way, but we cannot flip. And here we have completely flipped. So here he's looking to the right. Now he is looking almost at the same angle to the left. That is a 180 rule. Now we're back around the other way. So the easiest thing to do is take this middle panel right here and just flip it. It keeps everything in continuity. He threw Spidey off with his right arm out in front of him, and Spidey would still be out in that same direction and then swinging back in. So that's something that I don't understand why you would do it this way. It doesn't really affect the storytelling to not flip this panel horizontally and have it going in the other direction. Let's see here. More cool stuff. Again, the fight just continues. Every time Spidey tries to, get an advantage, his webbing won't work. The lizard is stronger than him. Of course, Spidey's also talking about how he's trying to pull his punches and not hurt the lizard because of the man inside. The lizard has no qualms about that. So he comes in for the kill here as Spidey's trying to gather himself because he just got slammed into a chimney, and he kicks back with a great kick. Awesome stuff there. Good kick. Love the face of the lizard. Kind of just taking that solid kick. It's a weird face, right? The lizard has a weird shape in terms of head, facial structure, etc. So to draw him getting hit up under the chin, I mean, that's really well done. It would be hard to figure that out. And then we get, so now both figures are down, so great use of a down shot, right? We're way above and we can see the whole thing. We see the bricks, both figures trying to rise up, if you will, from the mat, right? Like a couple of fighters. And then great close-up. The only thing about the close-up that I did not like was the mouth. So one, I wish the lizard had teeth. I think it would make him look more intimidating. And in later appearances, the lizard absolutely does have teeth. Here he does not. But this use of the line work in here, I kind of understand what they're going for. There's some light inside the mouth, so you don't want to just solid black it out like just a void. But honestly, the way that the lines work and the fact that it's this exact same color green on the inside as the skin and everything else, it almost looks, it reminds me of baleen, right? It's that stuff that some whales have, like blue whales, humpback whales, where they swallow all the water and they push the water out and all the krill that they eat is trapped inside. It's this fibrous, almost looks like bristle brushes. That's what that looks like to me. It's almost like his mouth is full of whale baleen. So I would say put in a tongue, add some shadows, maybe some teeth. That would clear that up and just be easier. I do, just from a plot standpoint, I understand it, but I don't like it. The lizard has Spidey at his mercy. He literally has his hand. Spidey's laying there. He's got his hands around his head. He could try to snap his neck. Again, throw him off the building again, whatever he wants to do. And the lizard is like, I'll wait until you're full strength. It's a villain blunder and they all do it. And it's what allows our heroes to recoup and then come back and win, right? That's always the deal. Your hero has to, if your hero just comes in and one punch knocks out the villain, they're not super heroic. So having your hero get beat down and then have to rise back up to beat the villain, that's the way you do it. So I understand it from that perspective, but just, it never makes sense to me why I would why these villains do this all the time. I'm going to knock my enemy down to nothing and then walk away and give him a chance to keep fighting. Silly. Great. This is awesome. So I love it. The vertical panel that has the whole page, the whole length of the page, that's phenomenal. Again, using all that height of the page to emphasize the height of the building. We know that Spidey's fine. Again, I've said it before. We've seen this a couple times of him being dropped or knocked off a building and the crowd freaking out. And you're like, do you guys not watch this guy swing around? Like, he's got 2 web shooters and he can stick to walls. So whether he reaches out and grabs the wall or he can web up between buildings or whatever he needs to grab to, throwing him off a building is like the last thing you would do to try to kill Spider-Man. But I love the crowd reactions are great. The expressions are awesome, but this is so good. That angle is terrific. All the perspective is really nice. The body language of Spidey, he's basically playing possum. He wants to be dropped because he wants to get into the building. Out on the outside, the lizard has the advantage. If he gets inside where there's more cramped quarters, Spidey potentially is at an advantage. The tail becomes not as usable because there's not as much room to swing around with it, and Spidey's agility and quickness can really help him. So that's his whole plan, which is foiled by the very good intentions of the Human Torch, unfortunately. I love the Torch here. This is really good. If you go back, you look at a lot of artists, of course, Jack Kirby on his version of the Human Torch, you usually see his eyes. through all that rendering that's supposed to be sort of the shadow, because he's so hot, he's so bright, we only see that line work is sort of, it's like looking, it'd be like how you might draw the shape of the log that's completely encased in fire, in your fireplace. You don't see the log, you see the shadows of what's burning around it, so it ends up and the flame and the embers and stuff are coming through it, so you see these sort of dark shapes, and that's kind of how people render the Human Torch with these lines. But I like it that he also did it with the eyes, so the eyes are rendered out as well, as opposed to seeing Johnny Storm's bright white eyes and no other details of his face. So I think it's really, really well done. The Lizard and the Human Torch squaring off is great. And this just causes definitely more trouble for Spidey. So now he's got to deal with the Lizard, but he doesn't want to hurt him. And now he's got to explain or try to get the Torch to not also hurt the Lizard, but not explain, because he doesn't want to give up who he is. So, yeah, Spidey is between a rock and a hard place here. And that is the end of the issue. And that is awesome. So let's cut over to the desk, and we are going to wrap this one up. So, man, I can't say enough good things about that. This, with very, very few issues, this entire issue is superbly well drawn. It's one of the things, to be honest, it's very funny. If you had asked me before I started any of these series, like, who is your favorite Spider-Man artist? I have a pick. It's not somebody that we've seen yet in the series. I don't know that I would have said John Buscema. It's certainly not somebody that, in my mind, I associate very strongly with Spidey. Certainly John Romita Sr., John Romita Jr., you've got your Todd McFarlanes, stuff like that. But I'm learning as much as you guys are, going back to these old issues and going, man, some of these, this shows you a master can draw anything. So, like I said, John Buscema worked on Thor, Silver Surfer, Spidey, you name it. So this guy, anything you want drawn, he's going to do a good job of it. And that's what happened here. I'm going to give you a rating. This is a 9.5. This is as close to perfect as you can get. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's mostly fighting. There's tons of energy, action, battles, iconic poses, panels that could be covers. Like, it's so good, and leaves us with sort of this cliffhanger moment of Spidey kind of beaten down. His plan has been knocked out of sorts, and now he has to deal with both the Lizard and Johnny Storm, and how is he going to get through this? So awesome stuff. I love it. Please leave me your comments. Let me know. Do you love this issue too? Is this one you're familiar with? How do you feel about the Lizard? Where does the Lizard fit in Spidey's rogues gallery? If you had to rank, is he a top 10? Is he a top 5? Let me know in the comments below what you think about the Lizard and Spidey. And last thing I'll leave you with is, don't forget to subscribe so you can be right back here next week and join us for even more amazing Spider-Man. Thanks.